Historic Landmarks Commission, August 3rd, 2022. So let's start. Are we going to start with roll call?
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and take roll calls. So we have Chair Grumbine,
Present?
Vice Chair House is absent, Commissioner Butler,
Here.
Commissioner Dorden,
Here.
Commissioner Drury,
Here.
Commissioner Ensberg, Commissioner Lundvik,
Present.
Commissioner Manuel,
Here.
and Commissioner Uli is absent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's start with, well, we'll start by actually welcoming Commissioner Ensberg to the HLC. Thank you very much for your volunteer and your many, many, many hours of high-paid service that you're about to start. So, minus the high-paid service. But thank you for joining us, and yeah, we look forward to you being part of our conversations and deliberations. So.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Awesome. All right. Let's go on to item A, public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within our jurisdiction that is not scheduled on this agenda for a public discussion.
Just checking.
Yeah, they're just making sure. It was, they mixed it up so that you'd have to,
Apparently.
yeah. All right, so any member of the public or, gosh, I always go blank on online or, yeah, virtual. There we go.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. So I'll go ahead and start with public comment via Zoom. I don't see any members of the public joining by Zoom, so I'll move to in-person public comment. However, I don't see any members of the public present, and we did not receive written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll close public comment. On to item B, approval of the minutes of Historic Landmarks Commission, July 6, 2022.
Second.
Commissioner Uli, right out of the gate.
He is.
Making up for the, the
You gotta
2
be
minutes
late,
tardy.
you gotta work.
All right, and then who seconded it? Commissioner Drury. All right, thank you. Under discussion, any edits? Any edits to the minutes? Edits going once, going twice? All right. In that case, we'll have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Abstain?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Abstain.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
All right, thank you. On to item C, approval of the consent calendar for July 20th, 2022.
Move consent.
All right.
Second.
Second, motion by Commissioner Uli, second by Vice Chair House, to staff for summary and,
Okay, so we had a 132 East De La Guerra Street requesting project design approval and final approval. It was granted project design approval and final approval with comments. And I don't think I need to read through those for you unless you
Those
need
are
me
a lot
to.
of comments,
That's a
yeah.
lot of comments. Okay, I'll spare everyone. Then 2115 Garden Street requesting final approval. Final approval was granted as submitted. Item C was 1125 Anacapa Street, requesting review after final. This was postponed to the August 3rd full commission meeting.
all right.
So that's today.
And the consent calendar reviewers were Vice Chair House.
Thank you.
and-
That was, it was, let's see, Vice Chair House and Commissioner Manuel.
All right. Thank you both. Did you want to comment or add anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion before we vote on approval of the consent calendar? All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Abstain.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right. We are on to item D, announcement request by applicants for continuances and withdrawals, future agenda items, and appeals. And just before we, actually, we can go to staff for announcements and then.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You've already welcomed our new commissioner, but I just wanted to extend our welcome from staff, and we're very happy to have Commissioner Ensberg on board, and it is a little tighter on the dais, if you've noticed, so let us
We
know
got
if you
used to
get,
that
I know,
eight-person
I know,
elbow
you got
room.
really comfortable.
The lounge.
Yeah, we're getting from like your home comfort to like being in person a little less comfortable, but no, welcome, Commissioner Ensberg. Happy to have you.
Coach seating.
All right. One question I did have, I think that Commissioner Lenvik had brought up, was there is an item that's going to be coming before us now in terms of a transformer, or is that, what's this update on that?
So thank you, Chair Grumbine. There's new legislation. Well, there's many public works projects. Commissioner Lemovic was asking about a utility, and so I've been in contact with public works staff, so I should have an update for you shortly. But I'll also need to be giving a training on EV charging stations as well as solar, because the regulations have changed. So I just want to make the commission aware that I'll have to do a training here as well as at ABR. I don't know if it'll be me or if it'll be someone in sustainability and resilience, but there are some considerations that that take away the discretionary review process and turn things into ministerial. So that's not necessarily a surprise to this commission. But I think it will be eye-opening, and I think that there will be more to come. So I will get back to you on the other item regarding the utility.
And not that I think that sounds all good in terms of what the process will be. Just as a additional note to that, perhaps as you're kind of getting ready to present that, perhaps we can also be thinking about how to turn it into objective standards of some sort that we can be applied, so that at least there is some control as opposed to no control as to the areas that where they're removing our control. There is
Understood.
some of that. So that might be a good thing to kind of get ahead, start planning on quickly whatever we're going to be state overrun by, that we can kind of come up with some at least objective standards that could be applied that could still potentially work.
Perfect. And to the question of utilities and the public right-of-way, if there is some potential impact to a historic resource, our public works staff always contacts Nicole as architectural historian in order to verify with her to determine what that is. So if we'll have more
More
updates
to
soon.
continue. All right,
Mr.
Commissioner-
Chair.
Or Commissioner Lendick was, and then Vice Chair House.
I would assume that while we recognize that the charging station itself is probably going to be exempt from our review, which means we can have a lot of contemporary designs, that doesn't exempt the transformers or the structures that surround them, or so on and so forth.
That's part of the update with the new legislation, that initially many of those items that service the boxes, the things that tend to be quite unsightly from a design review perspective, many of those items are now exempt. So that would be part of the training and the information that we'd be providing. But if there are other, there's some nuance there, because not many properties are proposing other exterior alterations that HLC does have purview over. So it's trying to separate some of that out and being able to clarify that to the commission when a project does come your way.
Okay.
Well, I would be very much concerned about the proposed charging facilities on the corner of Carrillo and Chapala. Yes, I'd be very much concerned about that. And we cannot let the state run our little city into the ground.
I'll vote for you.
You tell them.
Mr. Chair. So, Vice Chair House.
In regards to changes to solar and EV charging, are there any links you can provide us to summaries of changes in the law that we could study up on before training?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Vice Chair House, our sustainability and resilience staff have put together a memo and been working with the city attorney's office to clarify and to kind of get through all the little questions that come up from a zoning perspective, from a design review perspective, historic preservation. So we had a lot of questions internally, and we'll be able to provide a memo as part of that training. training, and there'll be a staff report with that.
And just to let you know, our monitors are dark.
Okay, is someone kicking something under there? All right, pardon me, I'm gonna have to come over that way.
If we
I'm gonna
only
blame
had
Commissioner
paper
Lembeck.
drawings. That's right. Every time we have a technical difficulty, that's going to come up.
It's coach seating, but we have lots of leg room until we kick
Yeah.
something.
And it could be because this
Oh,
applicant
that
computer
no
went
one's
blank,
actually-
so
yeah,
it might
it
it might just Mary, you might not be
Timed
able to
out,
do
yeah.
anything.
Okay, so, and then since we're in gripe mode,
Yes.
if I can pour a cup of hot coffee on top of this, I just need a cup of hot, that was actually about that. So is there any update on whether we'll get coffee at some point?
I can ask somebody. There's a food policy for all city boards and commissions.
This is a
and
drink.
This is drink, so food and drink policy, so I will verify.
Okay,
But
sounds good.
I'm-
Last time I remembered to make a coffee at a time and put it in my
I know.
car so it'd stay hot. And then I could go out and have a 2-hour-old cup of coffee, but this time I didn't.
That sounds
so-
less appealing. Okay.
So, okay.
But I can say there's a new coffee shop around the corner.
Oh,
Well,
that's good. Okay.
Not that far.
All right, perfect. Okay, any other announcements, requests by applicants, and future agenda items and appeals? Anything else? All right, we'll close item D, on to item E, subcommittee reports. Any subcommittees have something to report?
Not I.
The designated subcommittee will have a meeting, I think isn't it next week? Yeah, Tuesday. We'll report once we've had the meeting as to what we met about.
All right, great.
State Street Advisory Committee will be meeting again next week. I forget what day, but it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon one day. And as you probably all are aware, the city council has approved a contract with a urban design firm, and we'll have our first meeting interface with them next week then as well.
All right. Great, thank you for that report. Any other subcommittee reports? All right. In that case, we are on to item 1. This is a presentation and historic preservation training item. This is the small house movement of the 1920s, preserving small, better houses. And
I'm going
All right.
to do a little
Yes.
introduction. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Valerie is a graduate, she just graduated with her graduate degree in historic preservation from Columbia. And during her graduate thesis, she called me because she was searching for lots of the homes that Santa Barbara submitted to the Better Homes competitions, the national program in the 1920s. And so much of her research was, a lot of it was new to me, and a lot of the houses we hadn't identified. And I was so excited about her project. I was explaining it one day to Chair Grumbine, and he asked if she would be willing to come and do a training for the whole board, because it's, she did a wonderful case study on Santa Barbara. I don't know if you had a chance to read the thesis. It was linked to your agenda, but she came up from Los Angeles today to present to us. So I'm just going to hand it over to her, and thank you for coming and helping us better understand our own city.
Thank you for having me. My name is Valerie Smith. I'm very excited to be here and do this little training on the small houses of Santa Barbara and what I uncovered in my research about the model houses that are all over Santa Barbara. So when I began my research, I was looking to study traditional house designs of the 1920s, as I felt single-family houses were underrepresented in historic preservation. My research led to information about a national movement that was extremely influential in the built environment of early 20th century suburbs. Better Homes in America, the program, grew out of the small house movement, and Santa Barbara emerged as a key contributor to the program. What I uncovered about Santa Barbara was historically significant, and I dedicated a chapter in my thesis, as Nicole mentioned, to the analysis of Santa Barbara's small model houses. The history of the model houses and role in Better Homes in America have long been forgotten in many cases. To rediscover this history, my research looked in depth at Better Homes campaigns in Santa Barbara from 1925 to 1927. 25 model houses were demonstrated during those years, and almost all have been located and found to be extant. Most of them retained their original integrity. The model houses that were identified are scattered throughout different neighborhoods in Santa Barbara, as you can see on this map. Here's a sample of the model houses that were found to be extant in Santa Barbara from early Better Homes campaigns. As you can see, the houses are diverse in size, material, and type, constructed of wood, brick, adobe, hollow tile, and stucco in some cases. Some houses used repurposed materials, including brick and lumber, to reduce building costs. The houses are found in period styles, Cape Cod, Monterey Revival, Spanish Colonial Revival, Tudor, and French cottages, to name a few. Santa Barbara had more model houses open each year than any other city, and won the annual competition year after year. The
Yay,
nation
Santa Barbara.
looked.
Sorry.
You said that. The nation looked to Santa Barbara's small house designs and Better Homes campaigns for inspiration in the 1920s. The national program, Better Homes in America, was formed in 1922 by Mrs. Marie Maloney, the editor of the women's magazine, The Delineator. While a large focus of the program was social reform and the role of the housewife, Better Homes in America leaders sought to raise the quality of small house design through the use of architect-designed stock plans. Small model houses became the way Better Homes in America communicated its educational and social reform goals in the 1920s. The program was so compelling that in the first year it was endorsed by the federal government. Herbert Hoover, the Secretary of Commerce at the time, was named the president of the program. Their advisory board consisted of AIA architects, government officials, representatives from women's group, and many others. Model houses were open to the public to inspect along with house-related exhibits and ran from 1922 to 1935. Hoover stated at the start of the program that, quote, 100 years from now, your descendants will still be reaping the harvest of your labor from Better Homes in America. So I realized during my thesis that my research was being done exactly 100 years from the start of the program, and I thought that was a perfect milestone to study how these houses shape the fabric of the suburbs. Better Homes in America was part of a larger movement that the National Park Service credits the American Institute of Architects, AIA, as founding. AIA started an Architects Small House Bureau in 1919. The nonprofit offered a plan service which allowed prospective homeowners to buy small house blueprints through the mail. When a house was ordered, a full set of working drawings were sent and other useful documents to the homeowner. And this allowed the masses to essentially own an architect-designed home at a reasonable cost. AIA published plan books along with a monthly periodical, as shown on the right image here. In 1924, AIA partnered with Better Homes in America for a plan book that could be distributed to local campaign leaders in cities around the U.S. And the hope was that model houses would be built from architect-designed stock plans, and that would encourage other prospective homeowners to also use stock plans to build their houses. Small house plans were not a lucrative venture for AIA, but they saw it as their civic duty to provide quality small house options for people with a moderate income. And they defined the small house as having 3 to 6 principal rooms and costing on average $5,000 to build. AIA offered hundreds of plans that promoted individualization, comfort, convenience, natural light, ventilation, modern equipment, and compact, efficiently arranged plans. The image on the right shows the ways that plans could be varied to suit the homeowner's preferences and best fit on the lot. The image on the lower left shows how automobile suburbs of the 1920s how the houses were arranged on the lot. And the houses could be turned sideways and no longer had to be tall and narrow in the former streetcar suburbs. Distance from neighbors could be achieved, which increased privacy, light, and air. 1920s houses dedicated space in the rear for recreation, vegetable gardens, and a detached garage. Santa Barbara was early to the small house movement and published their own small house plan book, as most of you know. The Community Arts Association held a competition for architects to submit small house designs in the early 1920s. AIA architects were brought in to judge the designs, and in 1924, Small House Designs was published. This plan book included 62 of the best architect-designed small house plans, and the small house designs had to cost $5,000 or less to build. Better Homes in America perfectly aligned with the city of Santa Barbara's goals to meet the growing housing needs for people with moderate incomes and to make the city beautiful. Pearl Chase was nominated to be the chairwoman and formed a local Better Homes committee that included architects and women who were active in the community. Chase declared that there is no place in the country where the smaller homes should be of greater importance than in Santa Barbara. We believe that by showing in detail what can actually be accomplished with the expenditure of moderate money, prospective builders of small homes may be encouraged to build. Santa Barbara's first model house was opened to the public for Better Homes Week in 1925. This was one of the model houses open to the public in Santa Barbara, and it was called the house that Budget built. Chase worked with her father's real estate agents to purchase a lot in the newly subdivided Ambassador Tract. Chase and her committee made this house the showpiece of the campaign with extensive publicity and the involvement of many community members. The image on the right is from the National Guidebook from Washington, D.C., which was distributed the following year so cities could learn from Santa Barbara's winning campaign and the model house design. The house that Budget built helped Santa Barbara win first prize in 1925, tying with Atlanta, Georgia. The house that Budget built is extant at 140 West Yanonali Street. The exterior design cannot be matched to a Community Arts Association plan, but it closely resembles an AIA design from their early book, a reversed version of it. And AIA referred to the exterior as a Cape Cod bungalow. The interior design was adapted from Plan Number 24 of the Community Arts Association's small house designs. John Frederick Murphy of Soul, Murphy, and Hastings drew the plans. The landscape design was done by Lockwood DeForest Jr. The garden and landscaping was key to having a better home in the 1920s, and Santa Barbara also led the way in garden design. In 1926, approximately 10,000 people visited the 10 model houses in Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara won the Better Homes competition that year due to the widely publicized Spanish colonial house shown here. An article in California Southland noted, "It was planned by the owner who has built several houses in Santa Barbara and who cleverly took notice of all the beautiful designs which have been given to Santa Barbara by the Architectural Advisory Committee." This model house is extant and located at 1423 San Andres. Extensive alterations and additions over the years have rendered the house almost unrecognizable. This slide shows design number 8 from the Community Arts Association plan and the built version of the house on the right. It won the local design competition held by Chase and was opened as a model house for Better Homes Week in 1926. The bottom right shows the description from the local Better Homes Guidebook published by Chase and the committee. It was built as a 4-room adobe house. The house and the lot were valued at $6,500. The house is extant and located at 821 West Valerio. As you can see, an addition was made as outlined here in yellow, and some of the original details designed by the architect A. McSweeney have indeed been lost. Design number 61 from the Community Arts Association by architect Katie Church was used for 3 model houses in Better Homes campaigns over the years. On the left is the architect's plan from the Small House Design Book, and the architect's own house built from the plan is shown on the bottom right. Due to the national attention this house received, additional replicas likely exist in Santa Barbara, on the West Coast, and even cities around the U.S. Katie Church's house was featured on the cover of the Better Homes Guidebook, as shown on the bottom left. The Better Homes National Guidebook wrote that it was well-designed and inexpensive construction, showing the advantage of careful planning and suitable for a village or suburban home. The magazine Modern Priscilla wrote an article on the model house and called it one of the better homes in America. And on the top left, we can see the admission card that visitors use during Better Homes Week to visit the house. The architect Katie Church's house is extant and located at 1117 East Coda Street, as shown on the left, and the second replica is at 912 Olive Street on the right. The third model house from design number 61 no longer exists in the location that was found in archival materials and may have been demolished. The Boyd House is located at 20 East Junipero and retains most of its historic integrity. The house was built in 1924 as a 5-room frame house with clapboard siding designed in a Cape Cod style. It was built by Alex McKellar from Plan Number 62 in Small House Designs. The house was opened during 1926 during Better Homes Week as a model house. A staff preservation report notes it as historic, and in the 1980s matched it to the small house design. And this new discovery that it was a model house can also add another layer of important history to this house. A component of Better Homes in America was dedicated to the immigrant and African American populations of the 1920s. Chase and her Better Homes Committee showed their commitment to modest budgets and were also inclusive of other demographics besides middle-class white homeowners. A 6-room stucco house was built by a black minister, Reverend Charles Harris, and was furnished with items donated by the Women's Club. Thousands of visitors walked through the house to see what could be built and furnished for $3,000. Sadly, this house has been demolished. Today, a commercial building is in its place, and there are no traces of the house. In addition to having won many of the Better Homes campaigns for their overall efforts, Santa Barbara was also awarded special prizes for architectural merit. This prize was suggested by national headquarters to bring more attention to artistic small house designs in Better Homes campaigns. Santa Barbara won the Special Architectural Merit Prize many years and was also used as an example for cities all over the U.S. And this slide shows the house that won in 1930 located in Hope Ranch. Leaders in Santa Barbara knew the importance of their role in Better Homes and the small house movement. They wrote that Better Homes in America was one of the most far-reaching movements ever launched for the betterment of America. It has touched the lives of millions of people. It has advanced policies of education. It has spread to foreign lands. And Better Homes in America leaders in Washington, D.C. declared that Santa Barbara, quote, made a unique and most important contribution to the Better Homes in America movement. And the city itself is a standing example of the worth of concerted efforts toward improving homes in a community. Santa Barbara's contribution to Better Homes in America and the small house movement is certainly significant. Discovering the high concentration of Better Homes model houses and other small houses built from architect design stock plans in Santa Barbara is truly special. Due to the careful preservation of Santa Barbara's historic fabric, there are many outstanding examples of architectural merit all around the city, as you know. Hopefully, small model houses will continue to be valued and recognized for their history and artistic merit as well. These houses demonstrate that 100 years later, trends of the 1920s, and they also capture an important part of Santa Barbara's architectural history. Thank you.
Thank you. Great, thank you. All right. Do we want to have any public comment on this? And then we can go to maybe if we have questions or want to have a discussion about it? Or
Yeah, I think you all can have questions and discussion. It's not a public hearing,
Yeah,
so I don't think
okay.
you need to call for, it's
All
a
right.
training for the
Yeah, yeah.
commission, and it counts towards your
All
our
right.
CLG training.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you. All right. In that case, if anyone have any questions or comments that they want? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Jordan.
First of all, congratulations. I read it. It's a very nice piece of work. So congratulations. And I want to encourage you to publish out of it in both the popular as well as the academic press. There's a reason to put it into public work. But I do have a couple of questions. One is you talk a lot about the lot sizes, but not so much about the square footage of the homes themselves. What's the typical square footage for a small home? Or can you answer that kind of question?
I don't think you can fully answer that, but what I will say is they're bigger than the FHA homes that came in the 1930s, so they might be more considered like medium-sized houses today's standards. They're
Today,
definitely not tiny houses, and they're not as small as FHA houses. But it really depended on the plan. It was anywhere from 3 to 6 principal rooms. So like a 3-room house could be like 800 square feet, but like a 6-room house could actually go up to like 1,500 square feet or something like that. So it really depended. They had hundreds of plans that were available to people, and anywhere from the range of $8,000 to some of them cost $2,000. So it was a large range to try to make it available to people with a moderate income, and I would say under 2,000 square feet, and maybe, definitely bigger than maybe around bigger than 800 square feet, but could be a little smaller.
Okay. And about financing, how were they, was the owner expected to put up the money for the model homes? I'm asking because there were programs like Sears and the Sears houses, where Sears actually was also a lender. Was there anything like that, or were they strictly the architectural designs?
So for the model houses, the Better Homes campaigns locally were responsible for funding the house, and they got a lot of donations from local businesses. Like Chase got a lot of help from the community to build the house.
Okay.
But then the actual people the prospective homeowners that were supposed to be building these houses, funding was quite challenging in the 20s. So like you said, Sears offered funding. The AIA encouraged people to use loan associations to build these houses because it was before formalizing like the FHA type stuff. So I would say in a way it was still challenging for people with moderate incomes that I think it's tended to sort of maybe gravitate towards people that could get the funding. But their goal was to make it affordable to everybody, but then the funding could still be a challenge. But they really pushed, there was a lot of advertisements in the small house books about loan associations, and that was like the precursor to some of these more formal mortgages.
Last question is about landscaping, and how specific did recommendations about planting materials and landscaping get? Or was it simply, you should have a nicely landscaped yard?
It was pretty specific. And especially that's how Santa Barbara kind of led the nation, is because they started having in 1926 home and garden tours, Montecito and Santa Barbara area. And so they were very specific in this is how you can landscape. And I know some of that didn't work for the rest of the nation, but it encouraged them to plant. It wasn't specific about the type of planting, but that you should have all these plantings. Like Chase held like a tree planting ceremony for the house that Budget built. And so they sort of gave the example that you should involve a landscape architect, or you should make sure that your house has plenty of garden space in the back, vegetable gardens, and that kind of thing.
Was there an assumption that it would be a short blade green grass lawn?
That I didn't see anything about that, but it was definitely encouraged to make, instead of just choosing a house plan your landscaping as well in the process, and that was all part of it.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Other questions? Oh.
I just have a follow-up comment. I have the copy of Anthony's original copy here, and they do put the landscaping in lots of the plans, so you can look through. And in the foreword of the small house designs, they have whole sections on construction and how to deal with the contractor and how to best. I mean, their whole section on how to save money and make sure you're doing the right thing. It's pretty interesting to go through it, and
Yeah.
I don't know where another original copy is besides at your office, Commissioner Brumbaugh.
We rent it by the hour.
Right. I photocopied it. But I just wanted to follow up that they did put in the landscapes on this one.
Great.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
is it possible to get a copy of that reference? Do you have a PDF of that document that you've scanned?
Oh, we could scan it in, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Or you can shoot me an email and,
Yeah.
and we'll, yeah.
And $25.
Yeah, that's right. And Venmo me.
Yeah, we could.
Just kidding, that was a joke.
I think
I
you
wonder
can
if we could
find it
post it.
on Google Books is where I found it. It wasn't super easy to find, but they do have a digital copy on there.
Oh, great.
Having an original is pretty neat.
And you're all welcome to come by our office too and read and whatever. So.
I was, one of the comments that Valerie said in the document was a lot of these are hiding in plain sight. And we recently had one come in, they submitted for design review, and it was a house designed by Louise Marie Vey, who did a lot of landmarks in town, and it was a beautiful Spanish colonial revival house up on the Riviera that she designed, and I found her whole submittal packet at the UCSB library with all the colors and everything that she submitted to the small house design. So,
The archives that you see?
yeah, and it wasn't on any of our registers that it was there, that it was her design. So we do have my dream is a lot of survey work to do out there.
That was
Great.
a question. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
Commissioner
actually
Butler.
was a question I had. Is there a registry of these homes that are still extant? Do we have?
At the back
An
of my
inventory,
thesis,
sort of?
I started an inventory. I have an appendix at the back where I started inventory nationally of where these homes are located and in Santa Barbara. But I think it would be good to start a registry because in addition to the model homes, Chase held a competition every year for small house designs. And so there's lots of these that didn't make it as model houses, but they're still from the architect plans and they were still considered to be very artistically designed. So I think there's a lot of layers to this, which I think we're still discovering. So yeah, I think this is sort of the early stages of this research, and there's a lot more to be done. 1928, they opened, I think it was 40 houses, 40 model houses. So it goes way beyond the research I was able to do through 1927. So they were involved in the program through at least 1931. And all of the homes basically were designed by a significant architect from what we've seen, so.
Yeah, judging by the map, I mean, there's a significant volume there, so it
Yes.
seems to me that would be
A registry would be
to have a
very
registry, and
good.
then, as you mentioned, when a house comes up, oh yeah, that's on the registry, and we
Yes.
have that historical catalog.
Yes, and it's also possible you guys could do a thematic National Register nomination at some point because you have such a high concentration of these houses. And again, 1920s houses are sort of underrepresented in preservation, and a lot of different states are starting to look at that now. So you guys have a really special story here.
And we won, just for the record.
Every year, every year.
Every year.
Yeah.
Sounds like a PhD project.
Yes, which is why I had to dedicate a whole chapter to you guys in my thesis, because I was like, there's just too much here. Like, why don't you do a case study on the East Coast? You know, being in New York, everyone's thinking it'd be East Coast, but
Yeah.
Santa Barbara just kept emerging.
No one wants
so-
to study the losers. All right, Commissioner Lenvik.
Yeah, how many of these homes that are identified in Santa Barbara are on a list or are currently structures of merit? Or don't we
So-
have that?
I can start. One of them is a city landmark,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the Girl Scout house, which was actually used as a model house
Sure.
for Better Homes Week.
Interesting.
And then there are a couple that is the Junipero one structure of merit, or?
It's on the inventory. So
Yes.
some are on the inventory and some were completely
So I
unidentified.
assume that could be a task that you could undertake.
Yes.
So that what we know can be,
Yes, yes. and
Whatever.
Yeah, so,
Catalog.
thank you.
so I can add these to our inventory and
Yeah.
so we can keep track of them so we don't lose more of them.
Yes.
And I think it might be also a good thing for, and I'm sure it'll be on Nicole's radar, but for our radar too, and just looking at these designs, when you look through them, and I'm sure there's lots of other stuff very strongly influenced. I mean, our book is only 1 year, so, there's all these years that these things happened, and I think there's lots of those out there that are either influenced by or were the actual thing, but we just don't know because they've been either added to or buried or we just don't know. So, I think the more we are aware of them, the more it'll jump to mind. Someone will be like, "Hey, that looks like," and
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
that's right.
And now we can start citing the
a
source.
resource. Yeah,
So it gives us a stronger case
yeah,
to support the preservation, which is great.
yeah. Great. Well, thank you very, very much. Is there any other comments before?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, good job. All right. One more round of applause. All right. Fantastic. Okay, so we are, let's see, we're too early? Are we?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Okay, well, I guess that gives time for a coffee at the coffee shop. Yeah, that's true. All right, anything else before we take a break? Everyone good? All right, well, thank you very much again for your presentation. All right, well, let's take, let's see, we have 2:30. Okay, let's take a 10-minute recess. Yeah, let's do that, and let's see if the applicant comes.
The applicant's here.
Oh, okay, great. Let's do a 10-minute recess. we will reconvene Historic Landmarks Commission. And we are on to item 2. This is a miscellaneous action item. This is 1238 North Nopal. This is listed on the Historic Resources Inventory on January 29th, 2014, based on the conclusions of the Lower Riviera Historic Resources Survey. Review staff report to consider a request by owner to remove the 1939 house located at 1238 North Nopal Street from the Historic Resources Inventory due to a lack of historic integrity. And there was a historic significance report. All right. So,
Okay,
Ms. Hernandez?
Yes, we do have the property owner here, but I'm going to do a short presentation on my report, on what I found. As some of you know, and some of you might not, in the early 2000s, the city sponsored a survey of the Lower Riviera, and it was very much a window survey, a windshield survey, and they were pretty much taking a quick photo and coming back with thousands of properties and letting us know if they thought they were significant or not. And some of them were done by volunteers, and it was overseen by Post Hazeltine, but some were not heavily researched. And so this house, when we adopted the survey, we put every house that was found significant on the inventory just to protect it and keep our eye out for them. And the homeowner contacted me and said there have been a lot of alterations on this property, and if I could come out and look at it, because it does not really have the integrity that the survey said. The survey said that, it has not been, its original plan has not been significantly obscured by any additions or alterations. And I found the original plans and compared them to what was on site and discussions of all the alterations, and I found that it has had significant alterations. So this is the original plan here, and you can see they installed little roofs over the windows, added the shutters, and the window boxes, which are reversible. But as you go around the building, you can see there has been a really large addition on the rear. And here's the original plan, which we approve buildings on the rear all the time. But what became more significant to me was this was just the side of the house, and it was approved to have the front entrance moved over here with an elaborate front entrance that, although it's compatible with the style, really isn't original and almost gives that conjecture, the feeling of, it feels like an old Tudor, even though that's not really what was there. So it gives sort of a false sense of history. This bay window was not there. It was a very simple elevation. And here you can see this was the main entrance to the house, and here's that entrance now that has a huge deck coming off of it. So it doesn't really convey that front entrance feel anymore either. And here's the large addition. It's really in the woods, so it's hard to photograph. But here's what the house looked like when in the 79, I believe, is when the photo was taken. So you can see how different the front elevation has changed due to those new coverings on the windows. It doesn't really have the simplicity that it had in the original intent of the house. And this was the front entrance that was now the simple side entrance. And the front entrance has been removed to the other side. And here's the new front entrance. This is not original. So based on our integrity standards and what a historic house is supposed to look like, I don't think that this house retains its original design or conveys that original 1939 appearance based on the alterations. And it didn't when the survey was taken either, but I just don't think they looked closely enough and walked around the house and pulled drawings on the house. They just didn't do that level of research. So I will invite the property owner to come and just do some discussions. But I found that it did not qualify for historic designation or listing based on the alterations. And that decision will be up to you all.
Great, thank you.
Hello?
Welcome. If you could introduce your name or yourself for the record, and if you maybe. Oh, is it? Okay, so the cord's blocking my view of the light. Okay, thanks.
Hi, my name is James Selmeister. I'm the owner of 1238 North Nopal Street. I moved into 1238 in 1974 as a tenant in one of the units. This was a duplex originally. And the owner told me I could, if he was ever going to sell it, he would sell it to me for the whopping price of $130,000.
Nice.
I got and he was true to his word. So anyway, so we've lived there a long time. I moved in. I was a waiter at Joe's, and it's in a dell with drainage creeks on both sides. On a waiter's salary, I could afford concrete, and all the rocks that you see there, I laid with my own hands, and fireplaces and whatnot inside. So though I appreciated when someone drove by and thought that I was living in a Tudor house, it was created on a budget to begin with, and I appreciated the honor of being recognized, but I don't really want to be involved with the historical landmark aspect of that, just because of bureaucratic issues and whatnot, so.
We're the worst.
You all are very nice, handsome, and beautiful.
It's not a contest.
So I'm requesting that I be removed from the designation.
Okay, great, thank you. We'll open to public comment, but then after that, maybe you stay put, and if there's questions
Okay, sure.
the commissioners have in terms of elements or things like that, it'd be great. Okay, anything else before we go to public comment? All right, let's go to public comment, and anyone in the online or virtual public comment can click on raise your hand, and you'll get 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. So at this time, I can see Councilmember Sneddon is joining by Zoom, and she had her hand raised, but then she put it down. So I'll go ahead and send her an unmute request and see if she wanted to speak on this item.
Okay.
I scared her off.
That's right. And actually, while we're waiting on that, what if you don't, there's only one person in the room, but I'll just double check to make sure there's no one in the room that wants to have public comment? Okay.
So it doesn't look like she accepted my unmute request, so I'll take it that she doesn't want to speak on this item. And with that, I don't see any other members of the public joining by Zoom, and I don't see any members of the public wishing to speak, and we did not receive written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you, Chair Grumbine.
Great, thank you. Okay, so back to the commission for questions. Any questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, Commissioner Uli.
Question for staff. I think this is just on the resources list, right? It doesn't hold a designation of any kind.
That's correct.
Thanks.
Once they're designated, we don't go back,
I
but
think
just the inventory.
But what triggered this was when I went in to get an addition on a duplex I have on the property. I was suddenly tossed into the historical landmarks requirement. So even though I'm not on a list, I was suddenly subject to something that was far more costly, far more involved than would be necessary.
Thank you. I understand that. So you're on a resources list, a watch list, but it's not designated at all.
Okay,
I believe that's true.
Yeah, and even those on the resource list still come to us for design review, and even if they don't get put on, don't get made a historic resource, the inventory is that lower level that stays there that still comes to us, but they're not necessarily a historic resource.
But what's interesting, I wasn't touching this structure. I wanted to do a little addition on a duplex where my daughter and granddaughter live, to give my granddaughter a larger bedroom, and then suddenly I found myself in a web of
Yes.
what felt like a web
Quicksand.
of quicksand. No, it's called slow sand.
Slow sand, that's right. That's true. Okay, any other questions by any commissioners? Okay, in that case, let's roll.
I
in-
have a
oh,
question of staff.
Sure.
Isn't the mere fact that the house is over 50 years old have brought attention to him that he has encountered already?
Yes, if it hadn't been on the inventory already, it would have been routed to me to look into at that time.
Okay.
And then I probably would have done the same sort of report, like
Okay.
it's lost its
So
integrity.
the mere fact that it was over 50 years old would not have caused him the delays that he attributes to being on the list?
No.
Okay, thank you.
It's really, it just goes to one board or another. If it's historic, it goes to you all because you have the expertise, so. Everything goes to a board.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we roll into comments on it. Anyone want to venture?
Well, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Vice
I
Chair House.
feel it's a reasonable request, partly because it doesn't preclude somebody, a future homeowner, from restoring it to its original condition. A lot of that fabric is still there, so I think it's a reasonable request considering all the changes to it.
I have a question.
Sure.
If does restoring it to just out of curiosity, does restoring it mean putting it back to a duplex, which was its original condition?
I think it would be mostly the exterior appearance and features of it, and not necessarily how the interior is used.
So the bedroom, the big master bedroom, large bathroom would all have to go?
No.
No, I mean, that
No,
could all
interior
stay
doesn't
as it
matter.
is.
Oh,
It's
got
just
it.
the
No,
exterior.
I mean what I built on
Oh,
top.
what you built.
In other words, there was a...
That would have to be determined.
Okay.
It depends on how far somebody wanted to go with it. And it could get designated in the future, depending on how far it got restored.
Yeah. And part of our review of this process is to look at if things have been, it's not that everything over 50 years old at all should be on the inventory or should be a historic resource. It's just that that's one of the triggers. And then when you look at it and say, is it, is it done by a famous architect? Did someone famous live there or die there or associated? Is it one of the best examples of the architecture style? Is it a great, fabric of the neighborhood that has its integrity? And a lot of that.
Waiter that worked at Joe's.
Yeah, like waiter at Joe's. We're finding.
Well,
And he built it by hand, which is unique because now it's a crafted.
does anyone here go to Joe's?
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Well, if you go into the second room, there's a photograph of myself and Frankie, the bartender, okay? Frankie used to be my busboy at Joe's.
Ah, wow.
So there is history, does that?
Yeah,
does
you
that
should
throw
have
me
said
back?
that.
And
You should-
I'm over 50 years old, I guess I put myself back
You're
on the
digging
list.
into that slow sand.
Yeah,
I try.
I'd let go of the shovel.
Yeah,
I think a plaque is needed.
that's right. A shrine, actually.
I've got some
So,
rocks I'll build to shrine.
there we go,
You
perfect.
can bring me the rock.
Okay, so then, just as a sort of a general rule thing, because we have time, so we can have this discussion. But when things like doors and windows change massively, like one of the things I noticed was that that window up there looks like it's one more window bigger than it was originally, at least by the drawings. And I
By the
don't know.
drawings, yeah.
I don't know if it was built that way or not, but
It was built this way.
okay, with the three things. So, and then the shutters, shutters had to add, roof is add, and then, looking at the different elements and seeing if they're original is a key factor. And then add all the added stuff and seeing if that took down its integrity to being too far changed to be able to do it. And what you want as the applicant, what I'm hearing is you want us to say, yes, that integrity it's not there anymore. It doesn't look like it was originally designed because of all these added things and changed things, in which case we don't want to designate something that has all these added things and changed things.
In other words, I added new integrity.
Well, different integrity.
50 years.
It's not historic integrity, yeah. So that's part of that when we look at properties. And what he was saying is if someone restored it, if they went to all the trouble with the drawings and historic photographs to try to bring it back to what it was, then they could come before us and say, we want this as a historic resource that we restored. We restored this thing, and now it's worth it because of this great reason. So, okay. Any other comments, thoughts?
I agree with the vice chair that it's a reasonable request and would make a motion to grant the request.
Second.
All right. May we have a motion by Commissioner Uli and a second by Vice Chair House. Under discussion? Any discussion? All right.
Wait, hold on.
Is that a lifeline?
Mr. Trump? Add something?
I'm going to change my motion.
That has never been spoken in this room.
All right. Any other discussion? All right. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Manuel,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I enjoyed this more than I anticipated.
See, let's play that on loop. We'll play that recording on
Tell
loop.
your friends.
Tell your
Yeah,
friends
tell
and
your
neighbors.
Tell the council.
All right.
See, we're not all evil.
All right.
Mr. Chair, it
yeah.
looks like the earliest we could start the next item is 2:45. I don't see our applicant, so I'm going to try to get in contact, so I'll be right
Okay.
back.
All right. Sounds good.
He's just on the other side of that door.
Yeah. All right. So we'll go.
If you wanna
yeah,
do
we'll
a
go, we'll go to a
recess.
5-minute recess. And
Another coffee?
Oh, hang on.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
There we
Okay. Yeah. Item 3, this is a continued item for final approval, 223 East Cabrillo Boulevard. This is the project site is located in the EPV district. Part 1, proposal to construct a pergola and install landscape planters, new fencing, and lighting at the patio adjacent to Casa Las Palmas. Project includes renovations of the snack bar and ADA accessibility upgrades. This is final approval is requested. Project plans must demonstrate substantial conformance to the plans that received project design approval on December 22nd, 2021. The project was last reviewed on December 22nd, 2021. And do we have the notes on that?
Chair Grunbein, I need to recuse myself, unfortunately, for this project and the next for conflict of interest with the owner.
Okay. Thank you, and we'll see you next time then. All right. Actually, in the meantime, can you introduce yourselves for the record, and then we'll go to the motion or the notes from last time, and then you can take it away for your presentation.
Great, thank you. Chair Grunman, my name is Elijah Pierce. I'm from RRM Design Group. I'm the architect.
And my name is Justin Van Mullum. I'm with the City of Santa Barbara Parks and Recreation Department, the client.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's go to the notes here. Okay, so this was, our motion from last time was the project design approval with comments. The pergola beams and the trellis members shall be radiused in plan view as shown in the drawings. 2, the brackets between the posts and the beams shall be simplified and shall be less ornate. 3, the major cantilever shall have a bracket on both sides, front and back. The architect may consider making the minor members less bulky and more slender upon further study. 4, the project compatibility analysis findings generally have been met as follows. The project design is consistent with the design guidelines. The design of the project is compatible with desirable architectural qualities and the neighborhood and surrounding. The size and scale of the trellis structure are appropriate for its location neighborhood. There are no adjacent landmarks or other nearby designated historic resources. E, no established scenic public vistas are affected. F, open space and landscaping is not applicable in the construction of the trellis. The action was by Lenvik. The second was by Dorden. It was 6-0-2. Drury and House were absent.
No, abstained.
And Manuel was absent. Oh, sorry. Drury and House abstained, and Manuel was absent. Motion carried. All right. So, yes. All right. So with that, why don't you, you'll have, I believe, the 15-minute timer. You don't have to take the whole time, but to walk us through. And please make sure to address, show us how you addressed each of the comments.
Absolutely, thank you. So if we could go to page number 4, please. So briefly, just to give some context to the project, we're doing a number of accessibility upgrades to the site, reworking some pavement, but largely just refining the flat work that's grown uneven and unaccessible. But currently, right in this area, we have a curved staircase that we are adjusting and then locating a trellis in this area. So right now this is all existing, but we are adding the new trellis area to here. So go to page 9. Go for it. Thank you. All right. So this is the new construction plan. So again, minor upgrades in the flat work, and then adding a curved trellis area here, and then 2 new larger planters with stairs in between. There's also the addition of a low fence enclosing this plaza area, and then on the existing snack building, we're upgrading the shutters that currently cover the kind of glass pass-through window.
I want to just add a little bit of context. So back in 1996, there was a development agreement with the Parker family as part of the hotel that is now potentially going to be built. One of the things was that we had a contractual obligation to build a trellis and memory of Mrs. Parker. So that hasn't been built yet, but we have funding set aside for that. And so this trellis meets that requirement. On the original set of plans, it was in a different location, but as the park developed and has been used over time, we realized that that location probably would be misused, and we have the ability to put it kind of completing this this area, and also at the same time increasing its safety and ability for it to not be misused with these improvements. So those are kind of some of our department goals that we have with this project.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
So the plan has stayed intact since the last time you have, since we presented the board previously for preliminary design approval, though we have studied and refined some of the detailing. So I'm going to jump to those. It's going to be
And to the applicant, we also have the mouse that you can use if that trackpad is
Thank you
not
very
as
much.
convenient.
Appreciated. So this is the trellis element. So there are a few comments on it last time that we attempted to address. One is initially we had an asymmetrical bracketing system. We had only had the brackets on one side. Since then, we've adjusted and given a more balanced look. We also had a bit more ornate, more scroll-like brackets previously, which was a comment that for us to study, looking at possibly simplifying those. Since then, we've moved on to a palm frond motif that you'll see throughout the project. We feel as though that's simplified it, but kept the nice, elegant, and still decorative look to it. This trellis will be covered in wisteria, and we wanted something a little decorative, little romantic here. And so we've added these brackets here. Also, you'll find a couple little palm motifs that are echoed throughout the project. We've got a decorative base down at the bottom with relief panels cut into them with a palm motif, as well as a palm finial up top. Similarly, oops. We've taken these designs and also used them in the gates and panels within the fencing that surrounds it. As well as the railings at the stairs. And also along the buildings. So right now it's a kind of painted plywood panels that act as shutters to protect the glass openings. And so we are proposing a more decorative relief cut panels for the snack building.
Basically, we need something to protect the glass in that area. And over time, it's just been painted plywood, and we'd like to change it to something a little bit more permanent.
And then at the front of the building, currently there's a deep recess that we're proposing putting a gate in front of. And again, this won't be a pedestrian gate, more of a movable fence panel that allows the Parks Department to kind of control that area a little better.
So,
And again,
and this panel is another thing that will help us with misuse and things that we have to clean up when we open. So this would be unlocked in the morning by staff and locked to the wall, and then when we close the building, it would be locked again. So, and during operation, it would be locked open.
So, again, to just cover the initial comments, we have radiused main beams at the trellis, and again, worked hard to simplify but still keep a bit of elegance in the trellis members. So the remaining portions of the project, if you've reviewed the plans, are interior, small remodels to the snack area. But those are the exterior changes proposed in the project.
Okay. Does that complete your presentation?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll go to public comment now. Any member of the public wishing to comment on this item can do so. Anyone in the room? No? Okay, we'll go to virtual. Anyone in the virtual world want to raise your hand? Click on the icon and you'll have 2 minutes to speak.
Yes, thank you, Chair Grumbine and Commissioners. So at this time, I don't see any hands raised for this item. I don't see any members of the public joining in person for this item, and I haven't received any speaker slips, and we did not receive written correspondence. So I'll turn it over back to you.
All right, thank you. All right, to the commission for questions. Any questions to the applicant?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yes, could you call out the material that you're making the gates out of?
It's wrought iron.
It
It'll
is.
be
It's solid
steel.
stock.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And actually, to tie to that, can you pull it up and just walk us through some of the sizing of it?
Which members, the gates or?
The gates, yeah.
And the trellis, I suppose, too.
Yeah, sure. We're on the trellis. We might as well. I think I see them at 3-inch, but I can't see them close enough, so I don't have a paper copy. So.
So the main post
Point
is,
taken.
is a 5x5 hollow steel section. Then cross members 4x4, and then 3x3s for the minor members on top.
Okay. And then can you show us the gates?
It's going to be 7. Yep. So the main members around are 1 1/4 inch square bar, and then we have 5/8 inch square for the minors.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes, Commissioner Drury.
And the tube steel goes where, is tube steel acceptable?
It is. It depends on the size and proportion. Yeah, and oftentimes that's what we're okay with as long as it's small enough. For some, yeah.
The tube steel's at the perimeter. You couldn't use solid stock in that.
No.
Yeah. The smaller stuff like the 5/8, that would
Okay.
want solid stock.
Thank you.
You get crisper edges for smaller stuff.
So, in your palm motif, that's all open.
Correct. So we're proposing a custom cut steel.
Yep.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. House.
I think the question that needs answering is on the tube steel. Is it a radius corner, or is it, do you have a way of using something that's got sharp corners on the tube steel?
What we're proposing now would have a small radius. It would be probably about a 1/4 inch radius, but it wouldn't be a sharp angle.
At least it's not a half or bigger
Correct.
radius,
Yeah.
okay. And then I see on your cover sheet, it says these are 90% construction drawings. And you explained that most of your remaining work is interiors, but there's a reference on the electrical sheet to a detail for the LED light that goes in the trellis, and that's not on the plan. So I think that's something that's probably going to need to return on consent. Well, that's a comment, but.
Or the good question is it somewhere that we're missing?
Well, isn't
There's
the lighting on the very back last sheet here?
Last 3 pages.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's no detail of that.
Well, it's all recessed, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is flush recessed.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're not
but
gonna
you have radius trellis members and you have a 5-foot-long straight fixture, so I would like to know that you've worked out the detail of that and it can get.
So the lighting members are actually within the straight members. So let me go back to the plan. But that's a great point.
They're in the radial members.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
In the 3-inch or whatever?
Okay, I think, yeah, that answers my question, because there's a number next to the call-out for the fixture of 7 of them, and I thought, well, that doesn't seem to relate to anything on the drawing, but I could see it could relate to the number of radials. Third to the last page. Yeah, Fixture A, there's 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, there's 7 radials, so that's where they go. Okay. And then also forward a couple sheets to the one that has the detail of the LED lights. It looks like just the standard cut sheet from Bega, and there's, I think, 4 different color temperatures, but none of them are checked off as what you're specifying, so,
Okay, we can clarify that.
okay. 3,000 would be acceptable, but 2,800 would be even warmer.
Okay, other questions?
And Mr. Chair, through you, just guidance for Commissioner Ensberg, that you would need to abstain from this discussion, given that it's final approval, and that you hadn't participated in other meetings, unless, well,
She's actually watched.
unless you've watched all of the prior videos and read the meeting minutes.
Does it have to be all or just the last one?
I thought it was just the last.
I'm pretty sure it's just the last one then. So if you could at least clarify that for the record, if you
Chair
have.
Grumbine and, yes, Ms. Kokenda, yes, I have watched the last hearing, and I have spent a good deal of time looking over the plans, so I am familiar with what's here.
Okay, great. Thank you for the clarification. Then
She did her
I
homework.
retry. I know.
All right. All right. Other questions? Any questions?
Just
Commissioner
one
Drew?
question. So the palm fronds, that design element, none of those edges are sharp. I mean, they all have a radius of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So
know little kids
the
again.
ones on the bracket will not be sharp, but they'll also be above even head height. You really would have to try pretty hard to bump into it. The ones in the gates are framed by an element, so the points never poke out. They all in essence touch a frame.
Okay, thank you.
Speaking of the palm fronds, can you go to the bracket page? I have a question. So yeah, can you zoom in there to the bracket? Just want to make sure I'm understanding. So I'm trying to understand what's going on. I see 3 pieces, 2 of which, well, they all seem to be overlapping each other. How does that work? And do you have another elevation? And what's happening there? On the gate, it makes sense as a cutout thing that I understand how that works. But on this one, it doesn't look like it's not necessarily wrought iron. They kind of are like separate pieces, but at the same time, are they all in this coplanar, or how does that work?
Thank you. Excellent question. They are coplanar. They are strips of steel that are overlapping. They'd likely be fabricated as one piece, cut and then welded back together.
Okay.
But they are, I believe, approximately 2 inches wide.
Okay.
Bands of steel.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
Chair Grumbine, I
Commissioner
do
Ensberg.
have a couple
Yeah,
questions, if
sure.
I might. Thank you so much for the presentation and for this work. I was wondering if, has there ever been a 3D model for this? Did you present that at some previous time, that we could see the 3D of how the whole space works?
Yes, so for our preliminary design approval meeting, we provided 3-dimensional renderings, which we can pull up.
Oh, okay, great.
So
Yeah, that's
at this point in time,
very helpful.
we didn't have the brackets dialed in exactly, but the design is largely the same from what that was till now.
And I can see from this that there are tables shown in that sort of central area, and is that the idea that that would be like a court where the public would go to the food service and then they could sit, so you have like a furniture plan of some sort that would be for that use?
Justin, if you could speak to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to speak to that. Yes, so with Casa Las Palmas, the building, we've got a whole storage closet within that space, and we have tables and chairs within that space that can come out to that patio and help support either a permitted or function or something that a rental Or like, for instance, if you've gone to some of our concerts in the park, this could be opened up and it could be another space that kind of helps with concert in the park.
Great, thank you. Then that sort of brought me to kind of wondering about the pergola, and sort of, I understand that this is in recognition, but why was it, could you maybe talk about why the placement that way as opposed to being more of a shade structure for this actual function of eating out there?
Absolutely. So the main driver of the shape of it was really trying to create a place. That plaza right now, it's not enclosed on all sides, and it kind of flows out. We really wanted to create somewhere where you felt like you were in a space. And so creating a bit more definition to the edge of it was really a major goal. With the addition of the wisteria, we actually do think it's going to provide a nice bit of shade. It's not over the whole area, but there'll be shady spots to, put a few tables under as well.
Okay, thank you. And then just a couple more little tiny questions. Thank you for that. I was curious also as on the new shutter for the food concession, why you chose to use wood versus steel. I didn't see any other wood anywhere in the project, but steel is a component that you're using pretty, typically. So I was just wondering why you chose to go that direction.
Absolutely. The primary reason we went for wood there was the fact that this is going to be operational, and it's much more lightweight. So we were able to get a functional wood shutter in a lighter form. Also, we felt as though it was more in keeping with some of the styling of the EPV. Wood shutters have a bit more precedent than a larger movable metal panel might.
Okay. And then also back to the brackets, how are they attached? I saw in the detail there, it looks like some sort of a connection on the bottom, but I didn't see how this, I'm kind of trying to understand how it's fabricated and then how it is connected on the top parts and on the bottom as well, I guess.
So they'll be spot welded into place, but we do have a decorative kind of stud connection on the bottom. But at the top, we've left those out, let them just be welded.
Okay. Okay. And then, let's see. Talking about the points and the sharpness, you do have these also on the little handrails, and they're underneath there. So that's one area where they are pretty potentially
Skewerable.
Yeah, skewerable, yes. So just that was one thing. And then finally, let's see, was there, is there some, what's the reason for the dimension at the bottom of all of the gates? You have 2 inches there from the grade or the paving. It's 2 inches to, clear. Was that some magic number?
It's not a specific magic number.
You don't know?
I didn't know if it was some, the 2-inch
For large
magic number.
lizards to crawl on.
So generally, we don't like to keep them too tight of a dimension in case there's any future sag in the gate or grade shifts 15 years down the road. We don't want to be banging against the concrete.
Oh, no, I was wondering why it wasn't higher, because you have that sort of notch out where the post comes down and then it has to go around.
And actually, can you flip to that? I think I might have one more question on that.
Yeah. I'm always looking for places rust can grow. So just sort of simplifications. But so I was just curious why that was. And that's my last question. Thank you.
Oh, I see what you mean. So we felt as though if we tried to dodge that curb the entire width, it would leave somewhat of an awkwardly large gap. I think it's going to be about 9 inches below. So while I can't quite defend 2 specifically, I do think 9 is too much and would kind of create an awkward proportion to the fence if we tried to float it above. So it is a unique condition, but it does only happen, I think, twice on the project to have that little bump up. But we do think it's a worthwhile detail to have that, as it allows us to keep that curb, which resolves where the planter is. Kind of gives a visual and physical barrier between the walk and the planter to have that little curb. So this was a way of dealing with that.
To understand, you're saying that, can you point to the curb that you're referring to? Right there. Okay, so where that goes kind of through,
It bumps
that's
up.
why it needs to jump up and around it. Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you, that was my questions, thank you.
And if we can probably stay on here, was there a thought for the finial, so that where the gate handle is, was there a reason that you had a finial ball on there, and then you have another finial, but you don't have one on the other side, or was there a reason why you needed that the shorter one, the one that's right below?
I believe we kept that for a bit of functionality, just as a good thing to hold on to, but I wouldn't necessarily want to duplicate it on the other side. You're not going to be swinging from that side that's on kind of the latch side. But if
How
is
attached
the
to that
commission's,
finial?
if the commission feels as though we needed to remove that finial,
Okay.
I think we would be very open to studying that possibility.
All right, sounds good. Can you zoom out for a little bit? I think there might have been one or two other questions I had. Oh yeah, so actually no, I'll leave that for a comment. Okay, I think that's it from my questions.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Vice Chair House.
Commissioner Ensberg touched on an important point. If there are to be tables and chairs and possibly umbrellas, I think that's in the purview of the HLC. So what have you to say about that?
To be continued?
Okay. So you'd come back with a separate application, perhaps, for tables and chairs? And you might provide umbrellas, which would provide additional shade, to Commissioner Ensberg's point.
Are you expecting the
Yes, sir.
same kind of control that we have on State Street with tables and chairs?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Vinyl is fine. Vinyl is final. Can you, I did have one more question here. So looking at the gate, that top gate again, and you have half a palm. In the other areas, you're having the palm fully expressed as both sides of a mirrored image. Is there any particular reason why you went with the half palm here? And would you consider either no palm or something else?
Certainly, we'd be happy to study that. I will say our thinking behind that was just notion of hierarchy. You have the main gates, kind of a full, more decorative double palm, and the side gates, a smaller, a nod to it, but not the full symmetrical. Are there other ways to get that hierarchy? Certainly. That is the route we thought was fitting here, but
Okay.
open to thoughts.
All right.
I think we're also looking for some way to identify the pedestrian gates too within the space, because they're going to be the same material and painted the same color.
Gotcha. Okay. If we don't have any other questions, we can roll it. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll
One
move
more
on to-
question
oh, yeah.
that you
Sure.
brought up for me, Chair Grumbine. Is my understanding is that the double swing plaza gates, there's two, right? Those don't have latches on them, so those are going to be, I'm assuming, open all the time. When you open in the morning, you're going to open those up, excuse me, and that the others are operable and they'll be closed. I don't know if they swing both directions, or I was kind of curious about the sort of exiting out of the area. Some of them swing in, some of them swing out. But anyway, they have the latch, so you go out, right? So those are closed, and then the other ones are open. And the same thing with the gates that you have at the main building. The front of the main building, those will be open, and then you close them at night.
Correct. So the gates where you can see the kick plate, so number 8, for instance, those are pedestrian gates that are true gates. The number 7 in building code terms, that's not a gate. That is a movable fence. Everyone else in the world calls it a gate because it looks like a gate, acts like a gate, but there's no, it is not an accessible door. It is not a true gate. It is a movable fence. So as you said, those would be open by maintenance staff, open it up, or locked at night. They don't have accessible hardware. They don't have a kick plate. They have cane bolts that would lock into place.
Mr. Chair?
Thank you.
Vice Chair House.
Do you have a specification on the plan somewhere that the smaller solid stock is square cornered and the tube steel has the small radius?
So we can check out, we call out 5/8 inch square, which I don't think there is a non-solid version of that, but we
There's
can add that.
tubular,
We can
yeah.
get that.
Yeah. I just want to make sure the contractor doesn't
Doesn't-
come up with something that he
radius?
gets a better price on and it's got round corners on it. So
Oh,
spec on there somewhere would be
Absolutely.
good.
That's a great point.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's go into comments. Who wants to start us?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Drury.
Yeah, I find the design is generally really attractive. I like the abstractions of these palms. There is an opportunity on the single gate to maybe put, leaving 3 of those separations in the middle and having another abstraction, sort of a pair. I don't know that it's necessary, but that's an option, perhaps. But I find the design as presented to be really acceptable, very nice. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Lendick?
Yes, I find the design to be well thought out, well considered, and well executed. I'm just very happy with it. One comment, however, if you maybe go to the big gate. I mean, I hate to, simply tell you it all looks good and have no comment. So
Heaven forbid.
don't understand that. I wouldn't go to sleep tonight. The connection of the palm detailing and the pickets seems to be, what would you call it, stressful, or it's static coming to dynamic. It's, and I'm wondering if there isn't something as equally creative as what you've done to handle that transition between those two. I would say I'd approve it the way it is, but I'm just saying, gosh, the palm detailing or imagery on the side, on the one side, the bottom and the top is contained within a larger piece of metal. On the picket side, it's only contained by the picket. And maybe it's a lack of that total framing that maybe in my mind is not all there. Or maybe the connection of the palm imagery to the pickets, maybe the pickets have got to be bending out of the way, moving away a little bit. I don't know. I find it so good that I feel bad about commenting on it even.
And even though I normally wait to the end of that on comments, just to tie into your comment, because I've had a similar struggle trying to think it through. I think part of it is, and I think you were starting to hit it with the framing point. So you're treating this motif as a decorative motif that's a cutout, right? So it's a cutout from a sheet. So you're treating it instead of like wrought iron, where you think something bends and then something straps or something rivets or something gets smashed together or whatever it is. You're treating it actually as sort of a flat decorative motif. And then on the lower area, it's a motif against a backdrop of another plate. So that's the sort of, you're sort of shifting language, which is fine, it's good. It can be good if you can frame it off and make it, its own piece treat it as that motif. And then I think there's a connection to that discussion with the brackets in the trellis in a way that maybe this gets treated as a one-all motif that's a cutout, and I think it's like repousse or something like that is when they would hammer it out flat and then puncture through and do it in the old days of hundreds and hundreds of years ago. But it's in the similar tradition, I think. But so that's kind of one version. But then when it goes to the brackets, I think you really want to be thinking on the wrought iron side of things, and how are those? And then they really can't coplane because they're not a cutout. They need to actually act like wrought iron, either twisting around each other or doing something that is very wrought irony and not
Or they're welded to each other, you know.
welded, but make it look like if it was actually made.
Yeah,
by,
I think they're very creative. I think it
But I
really-
think it is two different things.
yeah,
So that's
yeah. But I kind of look at that, you know, that motif thing and how it abuts the picket, and I say, well, it's great, it's okay, but it could be better, you know, maybe.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Drury.
yeah, I did forget a couple things. I think that
You don't get a second chance.
Two bites of the
No,
apple.
even during Fiesta? There's something about the handrail that doesn't sit properly. It's not,
Can you flip to that real fast?
it's an idea that's not complete. And I think the same thing with the details on the trellis. I think it could be, there's a solution that actually is
Yeah.
a simple
Yeah.
design solution.
I think you're exactly right on that, and that kind of ties to, I think there could be something similar to this, but think of it as, how are those, if a blacksmith took a big, thick wrought iron rectangle, and then he split it and pulled that end down and curved it, and then it made it palm frondy, but actually broke it apart, as they would, if they couldn't weld, and I think that could help make that a little more elegant, I think is what you're.
Yeah, that and the trellis, the supports of the trellis as well. I think it could be a design element. That's more clearly a design element. It looks almost random in the drawings.
Yeah, and actually, if you go back to those inspiration images, that would actually be.
Yeah,
that
I
might-
was trying to pull, so one of our precedents was the Lobero building. I don't know if you happen to remember the wrought iron here, but it's similar ribbon straps and that same kind of crossing element. But we didn't kind of find that precedent until after ABR, so
Okay.
or after PDA, so I don't have a photo of that.
Okay. And maybe it curls in a certain way or in grasps in a certain way. In this case, maybe that middle one is a little small, tight curl or something, and it's a tight palm frond or something.
Okay.
Some way.
Yeah, and it seems to me there's an option if you make it more of an enclosed design, you could use part of that design in the corners of the double gates. If you wanted to expand the idea of the palm fronds, which are in those two panels and the double gates, I think that there's a certain amount of design that needs to go into the end of the pickets, so that it becomes part of the whole thing is of a piece. It seems to me. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Vice Chair House.
I think we're going to need to continue this for several more meetings. No, I'm kidding. No, I liked where Commissioner Lenvik started out. I think it's very thoughtfully detailed, and I think it's quite delightful and naturalistic. I like that about it. There's been some very good comments as well that I would have no problem you considering those, but I would be fine with approving it as it is, though it sounds like it's probably best to continue it to consent for you to consider those minor details and see what little improvements you can do on it.
We have to get to the rest of the comments. Any other comments that want to be added to this? Okay. Commissioner
Yes,
Ensberg?
yes, thank you, Chair Grumpine. So I just want to express, appreciation, and, these details are where it all happens, so it's really, really important. So I want to just, give you a few things, and you can take them or leave them as you wish, but just some further comments. And one of the things that I really like is I don't think of them as palm fronds, I think of them as grasses. And it makes me think of the park overall, because there are many places that are like meadows and grasses. So they look to me like grasses, but I think you can, however you want. So, and the other thing I like is that if we go to the fence, one of the fences, I like how the thickness and the thinness, they're not all, at the base, it's kind of thicker, and then it tapers off to thinner. So I like that thickness and thinness happening. And even in this, like where there's those little tiny areas, the little triangles that are open, maybe that closes in even. But just the thickness and the thinness, which we don't see in the brackets. And I think the brackets could be more interesting if they were like that. And I think that the big picture here, the big thing is these grasses, these fronds. This is the whole, enchilada, I'll say, because it's Fiesta. So I think that, it's always, and in my work, it's always so great to go through and just say, okay, what's really essential here and what isn't? So I think you have an opportunity to even further simplify if you choose. And there's a lot of things you could drop out. I don't think that, and this is my opinion, of course, because I think everything wants to focus on those grasses and all these other things like the gate, the one that's for the building, the circles. Some of this stuff is starting to detract, in my mind, from the power of the grasses or the fronds, the palms. And I also feel that way about the little, what are they called? The palm emblem things. I don't feel like those are necessary, in my opinion. And I don't think that the little finial that you had on top of the pole for the
For the gate?
the pergola. The pergola, there's this little thing up there. I think you could lose that, and I don't think it's at all. And in case you're maybe looking for areas to save some cost, too. There's also, maintenance over time, the fewer things like this you have, the less you have to worry about. So I just offer that as a suggestion, and I really do like this sort of wispy look, and I think if the more that you can just really drill down on that aspect of it, I think it'll be more powerful. And then one other thing I want to say too is the gate at the little building, at the main building. It sort of bothers me how it's recessed into that kind of, it's a beautiful gate. And I feel like it's so, that it should be more present. So I feel like I'd like to see it moved out of there. You might have to, maybe even to the landscape, and that it returns back to the building. But that it's something that guides you. You see this, it's the unfolding of the entrance as you enter, you're coming onto the site, and you see this beautiful gate, and it pulls you in. So
Can you go to plan for that? Because I'm not quite following. I want to make sure I'm
Okay.
understanding what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, there it is. See how it's in the recess?
Oh, gotcha.
And then it's going to be open during the day, so you won't really see it. And I just think there's an opportunity to pull it out and maybe have it be more of, as you park and then you're walking along that walkway, that you would actually see it. And I think that could be very beautiful and powerful. So I think that's all. Thank you. And like I say, just, it's always good to have more feedback, and so thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm very pleased with what we're seeing here. And I also am sympathetic and supportive of many of the comments. But I think this has reached a point where I think many of these comments can be dealt with at consent. I'd hate to see it held up at this stage. One of the things I admire about this is that I think, particularly once the landscaping comes on and the wisteria is there, it will look like it's always been there. And that, I think, is a real achievement. So I'm very supportive of this.
All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jordan.
I agree with the comments other commissioners have made. My particular comment is whenever you've got a bracket, you have a sense of attachment on the trellis bracket at the bottom. There should also be one at the top, because it just seems like it's hanging there for no reason. But other than that, I'm supportive of the project.
All right. Okay, so let me give a shot summarizing the comments, and we may need to pause on some just to make sure that we're all on board or mostly on board with it, and then we can go from there to see about a motion. All right, so I think in general everyone is very supportive of the design, and thanks the applicant for the continued work and listening to the comments and developing them with this in mind. On the gate, if we can go to the movable fence that looks just like a gate and it acts like a gate. It swings like a gate.
Quacks like a gate.
But it's not a gate. Yeah, if we can go to that. Okay, so the comments were that in general it's very appreciated. Some of the potential minor items, design items to study is putting the palm frond motifs within a panel or a structure, a frame, and then setting that within the gate. Look at simplifying by removing the circles or having a simpler pattern. At least one commissioner felt that, at least a couple commissioners. And then let me see if there's anything else in this. I think that was it for this gate. Or was there?
And I think, Mr. Chair, you could probably extend that to the pattern that's at the bottom of the gate.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I forgot to mention that. That was one of the things that bugged me was the palm tree growing sideways. I mean, there's in and out, but there are only 45. They're palm trees, and to get them all the way sideways, it just feels like the palm tree is screaming and you're holding it hostage. So in some ways, simplify that. It might just be lose the palm tree on that or turn it up. So to refine that bottom motif along the kick plate of the gate, with potentially losing the palm tree motif. And then if we can go to the trellis, or the other gate if it's on this sheet, whatever's easiest. All right, for the trellis, okay, so if the wrought iron, okay, so I think starting at the top, the finial, especially with wisteria, I agree with the comment that we can just lose that palm on the top and you won't even see it anyways in a few years. And so it's not really adding much in my opinion. It seems like most other commissions are so we'd be supportive of removing the finial, the palm finial at the very top. And then for the wrought iron bracket to make them thicker towards the bottom, and then look at connections, wrought iron connections or visual wrought iron connections at both the bottom or the post connection, and then the top, the beam of the trellis connection. So more wrought iron traditional. Let's see. The comment was also to study moving the gate that is attached to the building, the double gates, to bring them out forward towards the public more so they can be appreciated. Study that. And then, I'm trying to think, was there anything else I'm missing here?
Yes.
Okay, please help illuminate. Oh, speaking of illuminate, the
Yeah.
lighting.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion, but this would be a motion to continue to consent calendar. And would you like 2 weeks or indefinite?
Let's do indefinite.
Okay. And with the added comment to show a detail of the LED lighting in the trellis members and specify the color temperature. I think that was all there was.
Okay, and then
Second.
Just before that, second, because I think there's maybe one more. Do we have the color? Was the color palette already approved, or do we have a color?
It was, the color material board was part of the.
Okay,
preliminary-
great. Okay, I just couldn't.
The
remember.
wrought iron's black.
Yes. Okay. There we go. Well, it could be Malaga green.
Right.
All right. Okay. Good. Anything else to add or discuss?
One other thing, Chair Grumbine. I would suggest, if everyone approves, that it would be certainly okay with me if, as we were talking about that gate with a little decorative thing at the bottom there, and can we just go to that gate for a second? It's easier to.
The big double
You
gate.
mean the
or-
fence?
The big double gate.
Movable.
At
The
the
movable
building,
fence.
at the building, not the movable fence. there, that one. So just as example, if you did choose, I agree that it should come back on consent, but if you chose, it certainly would be fine with me to remove the circles and then even extend that grass, or the palms, let's say, all the way down, and then eliminate these little palm things. I just, these little pom-poms. I think it would be beautiful without those. And they do come up in a number of other places, and I'm fine I don't think they're doing that much for you. So I'd be okay for them to be eliminated.
Okay, and I think that's worked in, but to study the extension of the palm all the way down is part
That
of-
would be up to them,
as a
but
possible-
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
you know.
no,
that-
as a possible,
yeah.
as a possible thing.
In kind of in response to what I was saying about just kind of really zoning in on that design to really make it strong and powerful, I think that could be really beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you.
It seems like there's pretty good agreement on at least looking at that as a possible ability. Okay, and then, well, actually, one other thing were other people feeling, can you go to the little gate, the person gate that has the half palm? That has the,
You're going to ask about moving that motif into the center of it?
or yeah, or something.
I like that idea, just replicating what's in the double.
It will be smaller anyways, and it will feel like a smaller version.
And it's what identifies it as a gate, is having that in there. so-
And it won't always be looking for its other lost twin.
Yeah.
Okay, so if everyone else is in agreement, then we'll add that as a comment too, to look at moving the motif to the center of it and completing it. Or another option that could satisfy not having just a half of the motif. Okay, so those are the comments. You've made a motion with those
I'll
comments.
second.
And then I think Commissioner Drury had already tried to second it, and I wouldn't let him, so I'll let him take a shot at it now. Okay, no, he didn't do it. Okay, I'm just kidding. Commissioner Drury, do you second that motion?
Second, yeah.
All right. Under discussion?
Mr. Chair, does the motion need to indicate that the drawings are in substantial conformance to PDA?
Is that now we need to do that, or does that wait till consent?
Because
Mr.
we
Chair,
won't all
you
be
could do
present.
that at, when it comes back to consent. And
Just when
because
they
you're
find
not
it for
making,
final.
you're not making a motion
Yeah.
for final approval today. So that's part of that motion.
Okay. All right, good point, though. Any other discussion? All right, please, let's have a roll call vote.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorden,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
All right,
very
congratulations.
much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
See you
Good work.
later.
All right. So we are on to our final item.
Oh, that's right, there's
This
another.
is item 4, but as...
Mr. Chair, I don't see the applicant, so I'm going to just run upstairs and see if I can
Okay.
make a quick phone call.
Wrestle 'em up.
I'll be right back.
Yep, sounds good. All right, we'll have a 5-minute recess. Calling to order Historic Landmarks Commission.
Yes.
And we have an announcement.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So I'm not quite sure why the applicant isn't here. It might have been a miscommunication. This item was originally postponed from July 20th to today. But as you know, I'm filling in for Barbara while she's on vacation. But there hasn't been any, I hadn't heard anything from the applicants. So I'm not sure if you just didn't realize that it was today. So, but yeah, there was a communication and I just can't get a hold of him right now. So if you continue this indefinitely, that would be my suggestion.
Can you turn your mic on even though it doesn't matter?
Yeah, should it be for 2 weeks?
I'd like to check with the applicant, and I want to, I've got a pretty full calendar right now, so, or I just want to verify on my calendar.
Okay, I'll make
So
it a
continue
continuance,
indefinitely, and
indefinite
I'll try to
continuance.
make it as convenient as possible for
Second.
the applicant.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Under discussion, any discussion? All right, roll call vote, please.
All right, thank you. I'll start with Commissioner Uli,
Yes.
Vice Chair House,
Yes.
Commissioner Dordan,
Yes.
Commissioner Drury,
Yes?
Commissioner Ensberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Lundvik,
Yes.
and Chair Grumbine.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
All right.
And
All right,
that's
we
it
get
for
to
today.
go from one recess to
Another.
we're off. Uh-oh, but we're still probably live, so don't.
Yeah, those are green.
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.